Hey, what's up guys, it's DarkArmedDuelist and today doing a Kozmo deck profile. So I'm really excited to do this one for you guys because this deck was actually suggested to me by one of my patrons, Gloomba. And this deck just got some amazing support out of Phantom Nightmare because we got Psychic Processor, which takes this deck to a whole new level, helping us swarm the board. So without further ado guys, don't forget to like, comment, subscribe, hit the bell in there so you can become part of the notification squad, and definitely check out the Patreon down in the description below for all those awesome rewards, like getting your name scratched in a single video, getting assigned cards in the mail, and even getting your requested deck profile every single month to your patron. And definitely give Gloomba some love down in the comments down below for suggesting such an awesome deck. So let's get straight on into this one, guys. So first off, we're going to be playing 3 copies of Kozmo Dark Destroyer. This card is our main boss monster that is crazy powerful, that if this card is normal or special summon, you get to target a monster on the field and destroy it. It cannot be destroyed by an opponent's card effect, and if this card is destroyed by battle or by card effect and sent to the graveyard, you can banish this card from your graveyard to special summon a level 7 or lower Kozmo monster from your deck, which is a crazy powerful effect. We then play a single copy of Dark Eclipser. You only need a single copy of Dark Eclipser, but this card is really good as a 1-of because it cannot be targeted by an opponent's card effect, and during either player's turn when a trap effect is activated, you can banish a Kozmo monster from your graveyard to negate the activation, and if you do, destroy that card. And if this card is destroyed by battle or by card effect, then sent to the graveyard, you can banish this card from your graveyard to add a level 8 or lower Kozmo monster from your deck to your hand. Since it doesn't special summon, we just play a single copy of this card in the build. We then play a single copy of Kozmo Forerunner. Forerunner is really good because this card actually lets us gain life points, which is really an amazing ability because during your standby phase, you gain 1,000 life points when this card's on your side of the field. And just like your copy of Dark Destroyer, if this card is destroyed by battle or by card effect and sent to the graveyard, you banish this card from your graveyard to special summon a Kozmo that is a lower level than this card from your deck, which is a really cool ability. We then play 2 copies of Slip Rider. Slip Rider is also a great 2-of in this build because this card is basically like an MST, and if it's normal or special summon, you can actually target a spell or trap on the field and destroy it, which is a crazy powerful effect. We then play 2 copies of Kozmo Dark Lady. Dark Lady is an amazing 2-of in this deck. This card is so powerful because it's actually a monster in a game that quick effect, you can manage this card to special summon a level 6 or higher Kozmo monster from your hand, and you can only use the following effects this card once per turn. That once per turn, when another monster effect is activated, quick effect, you can pay 1,000 life points to negate the activation if you destroy that monster, which is a crazy powerful effect to be able to use this card as a negate. We then play 2 copies of Farm Girl. The reason I've bumped Farm Girl up to 2 in this build is because of Psychic Processor, because it can special summon this card from your hand to your side of the field. And this card works extremely well with Psychic Processor, that during either player's turn, you can manage this card to special summon a level 4 or higher Kozmo monster from your hand, but it has a crazy powerful ability that when this card inflicts battle damage to your opponent, you can pay 500 life points to add a Kozmo monster from your deck to your hand, which is a really cool effect to be able to combine with our Psychic Processor, because Psychic Processor lets the monsters it special summons attack directly, meaning you're going to get a search off this card's ability. We then play just a single copy of Sword Trooper. I feel like 1 copy of Sword Trooper is still really good in this build, but you only need a single copy of this card, because during either player's turn, you can manage this card to special summon a level 4 higher Kozmo monster from the hand, but it also has the ability once per turn, you can pay 1,000 life points and then target a Psychic Kozmo monster in the graveyard and special summon it back to your side of the field. We then play 2 copies of Straw Man. Straw Man's really good as a 2-of in the build because this card helps out a lot, because it helps you with your banished cards, because it has the ability once per turn you can pay 500 life points and then target one of your banished Kozmo monsters and special summon it, but its effects are negated and also destroying it during the end phase, but it's still a really good card in this build to bring back your banished Kozmo monsters. We then play 3 copies of Kozmo Tin Can. Tin Can is probably the best Kozmo outside of Dark Destroyer in this deck, because this card helps you get to the exact cards that you need, as this card has a crazy powerful effect that once per turn, during the end phase, you pay 500 life points to reveal any 3 Kozmo cards with different names in your deck. Your opponent randomly picks one of you to add to your hand and then send the rest to the graveyard, which is an amazing ability for this card to have, to get you basically the exact card you need, while also getting cards in the graveyard that we can bring back with our back to the front front trap card, which is just really cool about this card. We then play 3 copies of Psychic Processor. This card is one of the best cards to see in your opening hand or special summon off of E-Telly, because this card is a crazy powerful effect that you can manage this card you control to special summon up to 2 Machine, Psychic, and or Cyvers monsters from your hand, and they can attack directly this turn, which is amazing to combine with cards like Dark Destroyer, Dark Eclipser, and even Farm Girl to be able to either search, pop cards, or get a really big monster on your side of the field to go in for game. And this card also has a really powerful effect that during the standby phase of the next turn after this card was banished, you get to add this banished card back to your hand, but you can only use each effect this card once per turn. But it's a really good 3-of in the build just to turbo out monsters on your side of the field. And it's probably the best normal summon in the entire deck now outside of Tin Can, but it's one of the best E-Telly targets as well if you have monsters in your hand. We then also play 3 copies of Ash Blossom. Ash Blossom is definitely a 3-of in the build to be able to just stop your opponent from touching the deck. So that's it for the monsters, guys. Let's get into the spells. So for the spells, we're going to start with 2 copies of Psychic Arsenal. Psychic Arsenal is really good as a 2-of in the build. I don't feel like you need 3 copies of this card, but it's still really good as a 2-of because it lets you target a psychic monster you control and pay life points equal to its level times 200, and then add a machine monster with a different attribute and a higher level from your deck to your hand, which is a really cool ability to basically use one of your pilots to get to one of your ships, which is just really amazing about this card. And during your main phase, except the turn this card was sent to the grave, you can banish this card from your grave and then target 1 each of your banished psychic and machine monsters and place one of them on the bottom of the deck, and if you do, add the other to your hand, which is a great effect to help you recycle your resources. We then also play 3 copies of Allure of Darkness. Allure of Darkness is really good in the deck because we want our cards banished because we have cards that can get them back. So this card just helps us dig into the deck for more combo pieces. We then also play 3 copies of E-Telly. E-Telly is definitely a 3-of in the build to bring out our copy of Psychic Processor or any of our Kozmo pilots, which is just really good about this card, and this card is amazing in this build. We then also play 3 copies of Kozmo Town. Kozmo Town is definitely a 3-of in the deck, as this card has the ability once per turn you can target one of your banished Kozmo monsters and return it back to your hand, and if you do, lose life points equal to its original level times 100, which is why cards like Allure of Darkness come in extremely handy in this build. And also once per turn you can reveal any number of Kozmo monsters in your hand and shuffle them into the deck, and then draw cards equal to the number of cards you shuffled into the deck off this card's ability, which is basically like a magical mallet-like ability. It also has the ability, if this card in the field spell zone is destroyed by a card effect, you can add a Kozmo card from your deck to your hand, which is an amazing ability to get to the exact card that you need. If your opponent decides to handle this card, you're going to get a search, which is just really cool. So that's it for the spells, guys. Let's get into the traps. So for the traps, we're going to start with a single copy of Kozmojo. Kozmojo is really good as a 1-of in the build, as this card helps out a lot in the deck. It lets you target a Kozmo monster you control, destroy it, and if you do, banish one of their cards your opponent controls or in their grave, which is a pretty cool effect just to spot remove a card off the field or in the grave, also making your Kozmo cards go off. We then play 3 copies of Back to the Front. Back to the Front is really cool as a 3-of in the build because it lets us put a monster from our graveyard back on our side of the field in defense position, which is a great effect to bring back our cards to our side of the field. I absolutely love Back to the Front in this build. We then also play 3 copies of Infinite Impermanence. Infinite Impermanence is just an amazing 3-of to basically just stop your opponent's monster effects while also locking down entire columns of spells and traps. This card is a definite 3-of hand trap in the build to go along with our Ash Blossoms. It's just a really good card overall. So that's it for the main deck, guys. Let's get into the extra deck. So for the extra deck, guys, we're going to start with a single copy of Cyber Dragon Infinity and a single copy of Cyber Dragon Nova. These cards are 1-ofs in the extra deck because you can make them with your copy of Slip Rider to give you a walking negate by making your copy of Cyber Dragon Nova first and then overlaying on top of it your copy of Cyber Dragon Infinity, giving you a negate and a card that can eat a card off the field, which is just really nice about these cards. I absolutely love summoning Cyber Dragon Nova Infinity in the deck, and they're just really good toolbox cards in the extra deck. We then play a single copy of Dingirsu. Dingirsu does require 2 level 8s, which is going to be basically our 2 copies of Dark Destroy to make this card, but it's still really good to spot remove cards off the field and make a copy of Zeus just in case you need to. Speaking of Zeus, we also play a single copy of Zeus to board wipe the field. This card is amazing in the deck to be able to just deal with the field. It is a fantastic card overall. 1 copy of Typhon. Typhon's amazing in this deck as well, and it's just really good at putting itself on your side of the field for basically any monster it has on the field. It's a normal summon. It can be anything that you have that has the highest attack. As long as your opponent special summon 2 or more monsters in the extra deck, you can make this card, and it's a bounce, which is really cool. We then play a single copy of Underworld Goddess. Underworld Goddess is great to basically just deal with towers-like monsters on the field. You usually don't make all these really big link monsters, but they are good options to have just in case, especially with Psychic Processor in the deck, to be able to basically swarm the board. So this card is a great option to be able to play in the deck. We then play a single copy of Access Code. Access Code is just really good to be able to make in the deck because it pops multiple cards on the field and it comes out absolutely massive. 1 copy of Blacklister Soldier, Soldier of Chaos. Again, really good option in the deck. Easy to put level 7s into this card to get its bonus ability, and when it destroys a monster by battle, it either goes up by 1500, can make a second attack during the next battle phase, or it spot removes and banishes a card off the field non-targeting. We then play a single copy of Nightmare Unicorn to spin stuff, 1 copy of the Dark Charmer because we play a lot of dark cards in the deck, 1 copy of Nightmare Phoenix, a copy of Nightmare Cerberus, a single copy of SP Little Knight. SP Little Knight is not super necessary in the extra deck. You don't have to play this card. You can play something like an Appaloosa, Mech Knight Crusadia Avermax, anything like that you want to. Even number 38 is an option for you guys if you want to play it over this card as a more budget option. But if you have it, play it. If you don't, you can drop it. You can even play Link Kuriboh if you want to as another option over this card because this card is very expensive. You can play a single copy of IP Masquerena. IP is just really good overall in the deck to be able to make your copy of SP, Underworld Goddess, or your copy of Nightmare Unicorn during the opponent's turn. And finally, a single copy of Relinquished Anima, just in case your opponent doesn't play around it, but they do negate the copy of our Tin Can. We can make this card to be able to eat an opponent's card off the field, which is super nice to do. So, that's it for the deck, guys. I hope you enjoyed it. This deck is super fun to be able to play. If you guys have never played Kozmos before, you definitely should give this deck a try, especially now that we have Psychic Processor, which is just such a powerful card in this deck. It basically makes the deck really insane again, which is really nice because you play it as so many numbers with the copies of E-Telly and the 3 copies of it in this build. It's just really, really cool. So, that's going to do it for this one, guys. Don't forget to like, comment, subscribe, hit the bell there so you can become part of the notification squad, and we'll see you guys in the next video. See you later, guys.